Guts and Glory. This is Lauren Haynes of Wooden Spoon Herbs and Summer Bock, Master Fermentationist, etc.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate the intro.
You're welcome. Okay, go start over.
No, tell us what we're doing today. This is perfect.
Sure. Today we're going to show you how to make a super simple vegetable ferment. It's going to be called kraut.
Sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut. No other than sauerkraut. So sauerkraut's probably the easiest thing you can make, and we're gonna jazz it up with a little carrot and a little apple, but we'll get to that later. So let's dive right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the way to make sauerkraut, it probably takes 10 minutes in all, is to get a really beautiful giant purple or green cabbage. I've already sliced it thinly here, but first, before it gets to this point, what you want to do is cut the cabbage in half, and then cut out the hard core in the middle. And all you need to do is cut a V into it, and then kind of like wedge it out with your knife very carefully. I'm sorry I didn't demonstrate that for you.
Well, I think it's easy enough.
Yeah,
we have some chopped cabbage. What is it, like 10 cups?
10 cups of cabbage in this bowl. And then all we're gonna do is layer it with salt in this bowl right here. So one layer of cabbage, a little bit of salt, and then repeat that.
I like your technique.
Thank you. And then here I have grated carrot, but you can cut them however you like. You can slice them into rounds. I think the grated carrot goes really nice with the sliced cabbage. So just kind of add that in to your layers.
We've got about 2 cups of carrot in this recipe.
And then we also have diced apple, which I think is such a cool addition to kraut. It gives it a little more sweetness than the carrot, and it ferments really nice and gives it kind of a fruity flavor all the way around.
We have about 2 cups of apple for this recipe as well. Really want to keep the apple limited. If you add too much, it's too sweet and it will bring on yeast. And so that's what I've noticed is too much apple in your sauerkraut can take it over the edge and make it a little funky. So try to stick with like a small percentage. I usually try to think of it in terms of percentages, right? Like
sure.
Maybe 10% or less, maybe 20 max.
Yeah,
I would not
I think
be more
we're
than
at 20.
20%.
We have 2 cups to our 10 cups of cabbage, so just a little bit. All right, I should have been a little less messy with this. So now what you're gonna do is, I've heard it called hand frying from a Sandra Katz book, but you're essentially just mashing the cabbage. And what you're trying to do is mix the cabbage with the salt to bring out the juices. And what we want as our end product is all the juices in the bottom of the bowl. A few cups of juices in the bottom of the bowl.
So basically the salt is pulling out all of the water from the cabbage and the carrots and the apple. And that is essential because we need brine. We need the brine to cover the vegetables and create an anaerobic environment. And that anaerobic environment is what allows all the bacteria to proliferate, and that's the lactoferment. You know, that's when we make a whole bunch of birth certificates for these bacteria because, you know, we started out with however many are on the cabbage. We're not adding a starter culture here. We just start with whatever probiotics just live there naturally. Maybe there's some probiotics getting in there from your hand right now. And then in the end, like, we end up with the equivalent. Supposedly, like, you know, Dr. Mercola actually did this where he had some sauerkraut, like homemade sauerkraut tested. Have you heard this? So 16 ounces, the equivalent of, like, the amount of probiotics in 16 ounces of sauerkraut is equivalent to 8 bottles of probiotic pills.
Wow, that's amazing.
Shut the front door, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's such a testament to live foods versus supplements, I think.
Well, I think it's a no-brainer for me in the sense that, like, those probiotics are made in the laboratory. And maybe some people are like, you know, from that age of time when they liked everything sterile and made in like by robots. Remember back in the day, that was kind of like the new thing, but
it's easy and familiar for a lot of people. But so is this. You know, this can become just as easy and just as familiar as taking a supplemented probiotic.
Do you know the biggest difference though is between probiotic supplements and this?
Love.
No, there's a love robot at this laboratory injecting love into every capsule. Okay, not really, but no, the big difference between this and the supplements is that sauerkraut is sour, right? That sour flavor is the lactic acid. Lactic acid is actually a natural antibiotic. So the lactic acid kills all these bacteria that shouldn't be living in your body, but it doesn't kill the probiotics. They like that environment. They like the acidity. So that's the biggest difference in probiotic supplements. You don't have lactic acid in it. You're just taking the bacteria. This is like taking the bacteria and taking all of these like, you know, natural antibiotics that kill the bad guys, so that it's actually making more room for them to grow. Pretty cool.
And it tastes good.
Tastes freaking awesome. Okay, it's glistening now.
So I'm from the South and so is Summer. And to me, this is so familiar. I also think, I mean, there's just something to be said for making something with your hands and really like putting so much love and intention into it, mashing it down. And for me, it's like making Southern slaw and then you just ferment it.
I know. I actually when I think of sauerkraut as slaw.
Sure.
Have you ever just added mayonnaise to it when you're done?
Oh God, I haven't. Is it good?
It's so good.
Really?
Well, I mean, everybody watching this that's not from the South is going to be like, ew. But everybody from the South is like, oh, you don't have to add vinegar because it's already in there. I mean, there's no vinegar in this. The sour flavor is lactic acid. So you don't have to add vinegar. It's like this really cool step.
You could just add mayonnaise and it'll be slaw.
My dream is that all of the barbecue places will start doing that. They'll take this, like they'll, you know, like start making their own sauerkraut and all these different recipes and flavors and then just add mayonnaise and serve that.
Or you could leave the mayonnaise out and serve it.
Why would you leave the mayonnaise out?
I don't know. Never mind. Never mind. Okay, so you see how at first, if you've been watching my vigorous mashing, I couldn't even fit all the cabbage into the bowl and I had to use this separate bowl, and now it's like not even to the top. So it's shrunken and masked by so much. And I'm gonna do just a little bit more. And so it's getting pretty soggy here at the bottom. All right.
Looks good.
So in terms of brine, all the brine and all the salt that we need is in the vegetables right now. So when we top it off, all we need to add is water.
Mm-hmm. Are you gonna add water to the ferment?
I'm not sure yet. We'll see how much brine we have. Hopefully I won't have to. I don't think I'll have to, but the cabbage was a little dry. So.
I don't think you will. I mean, you know, everybody has their different ways of doing it. But when I make sauerkraut, I generally try not to add water unless it's like an old cabbage. That cabbage was just harvested a week ago.
I'm sorry.
This is actually not very dry.
I'm sorry. Obviously, it's not dry. Sorry, cabbage.
So versus a cabbage that's been like harvested, you know, in the winter, like it was harvested last fall and then it's in the cooler all winter.
Sure.
Sometimes you're going to have dry cabbage. You might need to add a little bit of extra brine or a little bit of extra water so that you have the anaerobic environment. That is crucial to have enough juice. But I try not to if at all possible because I actually like mine kind of concentrate. I don't know, that's sort of my thing. I like the flavor. I feel like it's saltier, it's more sour. But some people add a lot of water to their sauerkraut. There's different ways of doing it. And I mean, honestly, I'll just say, like, I think this is one of the tricks for how mine tastes really good is I'm not adding water.
Sure.
So the water that's in here is only from the vegetables. We'll see. We might have to add some after I make that big speech.
Right. That's okay.
I'm going to smash it down for you.
There are so many factors going into this. Like when you make bread, humidity is a huge factor, and your mood is a huge factor, and the, you know, moisture of your hands is a huge factor. So there's all these tiny factors.
Yeah, I think there's totally enough moisture.
Cool.
Can I add more?
Yeah.
Whoa, look.
Oh my gosh. I know. I was saving the best for last. So I was going to top it off.
I made a mess. I made a mess.
You want to fill up the other one?
Get out of there. Yeah, I guess so, huh? Okay, important. Very important. Smash it down. Smash it down really hard. Get all the air out.
Get all the air out. And also, I use the crock method. I don't generally use the airlocks. And I think the airlocks are awesome, but I just use crocks because that's the way I've always done it. If you smash it down when you're using the crock method, which is weighting it down and covering it and letting it be exposed to air rather than keeping the air out, then it really helps to smash it down because you won't have floaters that attract mold.
Yeah, floaters always attract mold. Floaters are the little pieces of vegetables that sit on top of the brine. So that's why, again, why I've really moved more towards the airlock situation personally. We'll be showing you some demos though at some point with some cool crocks that we have, because I do have some neat crocks that are handmade by some amazing potters.
Cool.
So I mean, I think there's different ways of doing it. I actually have some that were made with an airlock using water around the top.
I've seen
those are
awesome.
Cool. Can we add a little bit of that moisture to here?
Sure.
Can we
We'll just combine them.
I think it's gonna fit.
I think it'll fit too.
I don't know.
I think it'll bubble over.
It might though. We kind of only need to go to there. I just want some more moisture. Let's just eat the rest of that as a salad. Sure. So I mean, actually, this is a really important point. So we could try to put this in a smaller jar, but it's going to be a little hard to ferment such a small amount of vegetables. You could do it. You can. It's just.
But you would want to put them in a smaller crock, I think.
Yeah, you do. It's just, it gets more complicated when you have just that small of an amount, because the part that like touches the air, like if we were just putting in the crock, the part that touches the air usually gets a little bit oxidized. It may get moldy, has to be scraped off. If we were to keep this in an airlock like this, theoretically it would work, but there's not a lot of, there's a lot of oxygen that now has to be pushed out.
Absolutely.
So that's a little bit questionable about whether that will work. So we're gonna just eat that as a salad. We're gonna keep 1.5 inches here. Basically just put this on. The airlock has a fill line. Show you that again. And we're just gonna fill this up with water and get it to the fill line. And then we'll let this sit for, I say 1 to 4 weeks. Like 2 to 4 is my general rule, but after a week I always want to eat it. But how long do you think usually?
I usually do like 2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3
Just depending on how crunchy I want the particular ferment.
For sure. I like it a little more sour. So when you're first getting started with this, I actually think it's better to try it at a week and see. Because some people, when you're just starting out, a week ferment is as sour as you want it to be.
Yeah, it's a good entry level.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
I think we're good to go.
All that you do. So you set this on the counter and keep an eye on it for a week or 2 and eat it whenever you can't resist anymore. And the longer, the more sour, and the longer, the softer. So just keep that in mind as you're watching your kraut.
Yep, and then when you're done, you can take this airlock out and put a little stopper in here, or you can transfer it to another jar. You just don't want to use a metal lid. It'll corrode. It's not very good for it. So you put it in a jar with ideally like a plastic lid or maybe another glass lid like these amazing jars here. Yes. Put it in the fridge and then eat it with all your meals.
Yes.
All the time.
And Ball does make a plastic lid if you're using Ball jars.
I love those lids. Actually, I have one right here.
Oh. So this is what we're talking about. If you just want to put it in a mason jar or any kind of glass jar, Ball Canning makes these awesome plastic lids.
That's not the plastic lid, it's just that.
I was showing them.
Oh, I didn't want to confuse people.
Sorry. Anyways, plastic lids. Cool.
Awesome. All right, everyone, this was another episode of Guts and Glory. Thanks so much for watching. I'd love to hear your feedback. Let us know how it goes with your sauerkraut. I want to see if this worked out for you. Let us know whatever questions you have. All right, see you next time.